Hello, in this lesson we're going to look at different terminology that we use when we're talking about data. So the first term that we're going to look at is variables. They come up in many different fields and different areas within maths. Specifically when we're talking about statistics, variables are the things that we're measuring. So for example, it could be the age of students or their hair color or the height of trees. They need to be measurable, which means that we have to be able to write down some data in response, a number or a word or something like that. And they're expected to change over time or between different observations. So you're expecting that if you take a class of students, you'll get different hair colors. There'd be no point of doing a survey if you expected that all their hair colors would be the same. So you want something to be measurable, so you're going to get some results, and you expect them to be changes. So you're looking for differences in the data. So first we're going to look at the difference between categorical and numerical data. Categorical data is data that can be broken into categories or into groups. In contrast, numerical data is data that will be on a continuum and it's using numbers. We can further divide numerical data into discrete and continuous. So discrete data is data that has a clear gap between each number. They could include fractions, but they're generally collected by counting. So examples of discrete data might be your shoe size, or the number of years that you've been alive, or the current year, etc. Continuous data can be any value within an interval, and they're collected by counting. Measuring. And they include things like your foot length. So discrete data might include your shoe size, which can be, say, an 8 or an 8.5, 9. Continuous data might be the length of your foot, which might be something more like 30 centimeters, 10 centimeters, etc. These are things that don't have a specific gap in between them. So continuous data could have decimals or fractions within them. Another thing to note on categorical data is it can include numbers. So things like postcodes are categorical. However, when it uses numbers, they can't, they're used more as a label in categorical data than for their actual number meaning. So it's only as a label. And things like average don't make any sense to find. So categorical data is in groups, numerical is numbers. While you can have numbers in categorical data, it's only as a label, not actually as the numerical value. So something like a postcode. Within numerical, you have discrete data, which is going to have clear gaps, often whole numbers, but maybe just a set interval between each number. And continuous data is found by measuring. It includes inside each interval. So now we're going to look at different ways that we can collect data. So the first one is observation. This is when we can stop and look. So we might be observing what types of animals are in an environment, or what direction most cars are going at a traffic light. So it's when we're standing somewhere and we can watch and take notes. The next one, and these two have a very important distinction between them, a census and sampling. And it makes sense to understand these words to help us understand the top two. So a population is when we are thinking about everything. So it's a complete set. So it might be the entire population of Australia or the entire population of year 7 or 8 at school. A sample, however, is when we take just a part of a population or a subset of that. And the reason we might do this is because it's very hard for us to, say, interview everyone in Australia. It might be more easy for us to interview a certain portion of Australia and use those results to estimate or make a representative information, which helps us understand what the whole population might think or how they might feel. So it represents, or the data represents, the whole population. So a census up. Sorry, let's jump to the next slide. A census is when we would survey the whole population, where sampling is when we're just serving a sample of it. This is the syllabus content. We've covered this lesson. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.